Look at this, right here. The wood panel inside a Bentley. You think this is just luxury decoration. No, the tree that made this wood, it no longer exists on Earth. It was cut down before your grandfather was born, before the world wars, before electricity reached most homes. We are talking about the 1800s. And here is the part nobody talks about. The last known place where trees like this still stand frozen in time is Antarctica. A continent so locked off from the world that most of us will never step foot there. So ask yourself, what is Bentley really putting inside their cars? And why does the answer lead straight to the most forbidden place on Earth? Stay with me, because this story goes deeper than you think. Let's start with what Bentley actually is. Founded in 1919 by W.O. Bentley in London, England. From day one, his mission was simple: build the finest car in the world. Not the fastest, not the cheapest, the finest. And to do that, Bentley made one decision that has never changed in over 100 years. Real wood. Only real wood. Inside every single car. Now most people hear that and think, okay, nice interior. But what they don't realize is the process behind sourcing that wood is unlike anything else on the planet. Bentley employs dedicated wood experts. These are not regular buyers sitting behind a desk. These are specialists who physically travel across the world, to the United States, across Europe, deep into Asia, searching for specific trees with specific grain patterns that meet Bentley's exact standards. They look for trees that have been growing for up to 200 years. 200 years. That means the tree growing right now that will one day end up inside a Bentley. It started growing around the year 1825, when Napoleon had just died, when the first railroads were being built, when most of the world had no concept of an automobile. That tree has been silently growing for 2 centuries, waiting, and here is where it gets interesting. Bentley officially uses species like walnut, koa, oak, and tomo ash, but they also use something far more unusual, something called bog oak. This is fossilized wood. Wood that has been buried and preserved in peat bogs for centuries. Bentley actually sourced this ancient wood and used it in their copper-infused riverwood collection. Think about what that means. They are putting ancient, preserved, centuries-old wood inside a car. So the question becomes, if Bentley is already using fossilized ancient wood, where exactly is the line between what they tell us and what they don't? Because there is one place on Earth where the most extraordinary ancient trees still exist, perfectly preserved, locked under ice, hidden from the world, and that place is Antarctica. But before we get there, let's talk about what happened in the 1800s, because this is where the real story begins. In the 1800s, the world went through something called the Great Logging Era. From around 1850 to 1920, industrial logging machines were introduced for the first time in human history. Suddenly, forests that had existed for thousands of years could be cleared in weeks. The demand was enormous. Ships needed wood, railroads needed wood, growing cities needed wood. And the wealthy elite, they wanted the rarest, most exotic wood for their furniture, their mansions, their carriages. In this period, entire species of trees were commercially harvested to near extinction. Trees that had taken hundreds, sometimes thousands of years to grow, gone within decades. The American chestnut, the eastern white pine, ancient kauri trees in New Zealand, rare hardwoods across South America and Southeast Asia. All of them pushed to the edge of existence or completely wiped out during this single era. By the early 1900s, the wood market was forever changed. The rarest species were either gone, protected, or hidden in places so remote that nobody could reach them. Now here is where Bentley enters the picture. Bentley was founded in 1919, right at the end of this great logging era. From the very beginning, Bentley was building cars for the world's elite. And those elite customers demanded the finest, rarest materials available, the same rare woods that were disappearing from the market. So Bentley built relationships with suppliers around the world. Secretive, exclusive relationships. Suppliers who knew exactly where to find trees that most people didn't even know existed anymore. And Bentley has never fully disclosed who all of their suppliers are. They say their wood is ethically sourced. They mention some locations: Hawaii, Mississippi, California, parts of Europe and Asia. But for certain rare veneers, the source remains vague, intentionally vague. Now combine that with one scientific discovery that almost nobody is talking about. In 2017, a team of geologists trekked into the Transantarctic Mountains of Antarctica. What they found stopped the scientific community in its tracks. Fossil trees, ancient fossil forests. Trees that were 280 million years old, preserved in extraordinary detail. Some fossil logs still standing upright, up to 7 meters tall. The wood so perfectly preserved that scientists found fossilized cells still intact inside. But the most shocking discovery came from CNN's report on the expedition. Scientists confirmed that during this ancient period, trees in Antarctica grew up to 40 meters tall. 40 meters, that is taller than a 12-story building. These were not small plants, these were giants. And Antarctica preserved them like nothing else on Earth can. So now you have to ask, if ancient wood can survive perfectly in Antarctica for millions of years, what else is still down there? And who already knows about it? Let's talk about what scientists actually found in Antarctica, because this part is not theory. This is documented, peer-reviewed science. Robert Falcon Scott, the famous British explorer, first discovered plant fossils in Antarctica back in 1911. He was on his fateful South Pole expedition, and his chief scientist Edward Wilson recorded in his diary that the fossilized leaves looked like beech leaves in shape. At the time, nobody believed them. For over 100 years, these findings were dismissed. Then in 2017, everything changed. A team from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee made a historic discovery in the Transantarctic Mountains. They found fossil fragments from 13 different trees, all dating back over 260 million years, before the first dinosaurs ever walked the Earth. But the detail that made headlines across the world was this: the preservation. These trees were so perfectly preserved that scientists found fossilized plant cells that were virtually mummified. The cellular structure was intact, and inside the wood, fossilized fungi and microorganisms were still visible. Scientists said this level of preservation was almost impossible to explain. The trees had been rapidly buried, likely by volcanic ash, and the cold Antarctic environment had done the rest. One researcher described it simply: these are some of the best preserved fossil plants in the entire world. Now think about this from a different angle. If Antarctica can preserve biological material at this level of detail for hundreds of millions of years, what does that mean for wood that was buried far more recently? In the last few thousand years, or even in the last few hundred, the answer is it would be preserved almost perfectly. And this is exactly what some independent researchers have been quietly pointing out. That beneath the Antarctic ice, which is nearly 1 kilometer thick in some places, there may be entire preserved forests from a much more recent era, trees that would be recognizable. Trees whose wood would still be usable. Now here is the Antarctica connection that nobody has directly mapped to the luxury wood market, until now. Antarctica is one of the most restricted territories on Earth. The Antarctic Treaty of 1959, signed by 12 nations, controls exactly who can go there and what they can do. Commercial activity is heavily restricted, but scientific expeditions happen regularly. Private expeditions, especially by well-funded organizations, do happen. And the companies that supply the rarest materials to the world's luxury brands, they operate in exactly these kinds of remote, restricted territories. We are not saying Bentley is doing anything wrong. What we are saying is, the trail of rare, ancient, almost mythical wood leads in a direction that nobody has been willing to follow publicly. And that direction points south, way south. So let's bring everything together. In the 1800s, the Great Logging Era wiped out entire species of rare trees across the planet. The wood market was changed forever. Bentley was founded immediately after this era, building cars for the elite, using the rarest woods on Earth. Woods that are intentionally not fully disclosed to the public. Bentley has already confirmed they use fossilized ancient wood. The Bog Oak collection proves that. They are not afraid of sourcing from extraordinary, unusual places. Antarctica, a continent closed off to the general public, contains the world's best-preserved ancient forests. Trees so well preserved that their cellular structure is still intact after 280 million years. Trees that once grew 40 meters tall. The Antarctic Treaty restricts commercial activity, but does not stop private scientific expeditions by well-funded organizations. And Bentley's rarest wood sources, still not fully public. Now, you connect those dots. I am not here to tell you what to think. I am here to show you what the data says, what scientists have confirmed, and what the luxury industry has never been asked to explain. The wood inside your dream car has a story that goes back further than you ever imagined. Further than the 1800s, further than recorded human history. And the last chapter of that story may still be frozen under the ice at the bottom of the world. Next time you see a Bentley, look at that wood panel. Really look at it. Because you are not just looking at luxury. You are looking at something that may have taken hundreds of millions of years to become what it is. And someone, somewhere, knows exactly where it came from. If this video made you think differently, share it with one person who needs to see this. And drop a comment. What do you think is really hidden in Antarctica? Because I have a feeling we have only scratched the surface.